Howdy y'all, I'm Mickey. Happy Pride Month. Let's talk experimenting. I, as a young, scientifically minded tween/teen, obviously did some experimenting with my classmates back in the day. And by experimenting, I mean conducting social experiments without their knowledge to see how my peers reacted to unexpected social stimuli. Obviously. See, when I was young, I was interested in sociology and social dynamics and how people fit in and react day to day. But in school, everything's kind of just routine, the same day after day, especially with classroom sizes as small as mine were. So I thought I'd switch it up. Experiment 1. Floor sitting. Yay, floor time, love floor time. Enough that in middle school one day I decided I didn't want to sit at my desk. What would happen if I just sat on the floor next to my desk? I wasn't disruptive. I got all of my stuff out, I did all of my work, I turned in my assignments, did the reading, did my little worksheets, just on the floor instead of on my desk. But yep, for one day, I decided I was going to sit on the floor next to my desk until a teacher told me that I had to stop. And then they didn't. So I just sat on the floor the whole day. Conclusion, no one cared. A couple of my classmates, the ones sitting right next to me, asked why I was on the floor, but they accepted because I want to be as an answer pretty easily. It was probably helpful that I always sat on the edges of the desk setup so that I was able to stand up and kind of do a lap around the room without disturbing anyone, because I wasn't able to sit still for the whole class period. So, I wasn't blocking any walkways. But yeah, no one cared. Teachers didn't say anything, and the only classmates who said anything were the ones who just asked why. So how will middle school/high school students react to a classmate doing something just kind of weird? Results for right now, inconclusive. Let's try again. Experiment 2, the bunny. Specifically, this one. Isn't he cute? He has little pigtails on. For most of 1 year in high school, I believe by junior year, I don't remember high school very well, but I remember that I brought that bunny to class with me every single day. Now by this point I was a traumatized, anxious, mentally ill kid, so he was a bit of a comfort item. But I was also just curious how high schoolers would react. He sat with me on the bus, where I often tried to have my own seat, as you do on a school bus. And at school, he would just sit on my desk with me. He can sit up by himself. It would just be us in class together like this, with him just sitting on my desk. This is the most studious plush bunny you've ever seen in your life. And he just attended class with me. So, how did my classmates react? Conclusion, no one cared. Same as the floor experiment in middle school, very few people cared that someone was doing something a little outside of the normal. Some more classmates asked questions, but not really the ones you would expect. I think the most asked question was what his name is. And I don't remember. I'm a terrible, terrible plushie parent. I'm so sorry. He is studious, but he is nameless. I had a list with all of my stuffed animals' names for a reason, and it's MIA. But no, most of my classmates just didn't acknowledge him at all, and if they did, it was friendly. But the results of my experiments were still inconclusive. Maybe I wasn't going bold enough? Let's try again. Experiment 3, the blanket. Bit of a bigger step here. For this year, as soon as it wasn't actively summer, by which I mean like mid-September, I was wearing a blanket like a cloak every single day. I had that thing up around my neck, tied, wearing my little cloak blanket around. Everywhere. Every class, my cloak, blanket, and I were attached. It was this black blanket that had like silver spiderweb patterns on it. I think it was a Halloween blanket. It fit because I wore all black in high school, and still largely do. Emo is for life. Ignore this, it doesn't count if it's gay. I had my nice little cloak blanket I was cozy. I was slaying. More people need to slay with cloaks. That's my fashion statement for the rest of 2025 into 2026. More cloaks. I've seen cloaks coming back. Are they coming back? Was I ahead of the curve? Maybe I'm just a fashion visionary. But no, it was just a blanket that I was using as a cloak every day. And I was rocking it, okay? So, step up from the bunny. Now I've got a blanket cloak. How did anyone feel about that? Conclusion, no one cared. Occasional people said that was smart, or that I looked cozy. Yep, that was most of it. You look cozy. Trust me, I was. And that's, well, I don't think I can say the results are inconclusive still, can I? 3 goes with all the same answer? Is that the results? How did my middle school / high school classmates react to me doing something slightly unusual, slightly deviating from the norm? Conclusion, they did not care. And listen, I was horribly bullied for being weird as a kid, right? Maybe that's why I got away with it. Maybe it was just expected of me to be weird. But I was always targeted for the more inherent, permanent parts of myself. Not a specific weird thing I did. Sitting on the floor or taking a stuffed bunny to school, that's whatever. But not feeling emotions correctly or understanding how to socialize, that's too far. But I digress. That's not what this is about. This is about the experiments and the fact that no one cared. And it was an interesting conclusion to reach. I grew up, I'd say, kind of during social media becoming what it is now. And so you heard a lot about, people being invested in all of the specific details of each other's lives and leaving hate comments and being super critical of everything they see online. And then in real life, they didn't care. Once they were away from the weird, everything is always, every moment is the same point in time and everything is permanent, but also impermanent space of the internet, they simply didn't have the energy to care about what other people were doing anymore. They had their own things going on in life. They don't care what some random classmate's doing. And I internalized from that I could be weird, or I could make mistakes, or I could do odd things, and probably the only person who was going to remember any of it was me. And that one's still kind of up in the air. I mean, my memory's not great. And that was going to be my little conclusion. I was going to be like, hey, great news, everyone. No one cares what you're doing with your life. You can do whatever. You can move through, and then years from now, people probably aren't going to remember you existed. I'm sorry, middle school and high school were not exactly forming, lifelong memories. You're 14. I say this as somebody who met my best friend when I was 8. I'm aware that there are some exceptions. You're gonna do weird things as you're growing up and figuring out who you are as a person, and then sometimes you continue doing weird things because you just kind of grow up into a weird adult. Who would know about that? And that was going to be my nice, tidy little conclusion. And then I realized maybe I'm a bit out of touch with the kids. So while I was prepping to make this video, I saw somebody talking about the exact same subject. And they were talking about, a guy who brought a snake onto a bus. People thought he was weird, but they just moved on with their lives. And they worried that a lot of people aren't doing that anymore because people just instinctively take out their phones to photograph or record anything that seems out of the ordinary for them. I don't know. Am I gonna sound like a boomer if I say kids these days are too obsessed with their screens? Back in my day. But yeah, no, unfortunately I don't know how to translate my experience into what it might be like now, with everybody just instinctively taking pictures and videos and posting them. Don't do that, by the way. If no one has told you, let me be the first. It is weird and gross to take pictures and videos of people without them knowing and post it on the internet. That's weirdo behavior. That's super cringe. But I don't know how it would work like that. I know people are putting in, policies to kind of just ban phones from schools so that you can't do that. And I do hope, with the weird, constantly moving nature of the internet, that a lot of stuff like that would still just be forgotten. I suppose there'd be the risk that somebody would take a picture, but also, like, own your weirdness. I certainly did. There was always a chance that back then somebody was still going to take a picture of me. We had phones. We had social media. It just wasn't quite what it is now. I'm not that old, okay? But I'll always say that. Own your weirdness. You'll be happier if you do. Better to be weird and genuine than accepted because you stifle any part of yourself that feels too real. The internet cringe cannot actually hurt you. Especially not if the cringe is something like you have an extremely studious bunny friend. Look at this little face. He does not know what a social media is. I guess that's my new conclusion. Be who you are. Be as weird as you are or want to be, because no one else cares. And if they do care, then you shouldn't, because that's really on them. They should worry about their own stuff. It's not a crime to be weird. Cringe culture is dead. It got by exploding hammer car. Then yeah, keep doing what you want to do. If you fancy yourself a little mad scientist, like I did as a child, social experiments are fun. As long as they don't hurt anyone, or like bother anyone. I wasn't trying to hurt or bother anyone. I was just trying to see how they reacted to me being weird. Do what you want, be who you want, be yourself for pride, and see where that gets you. I mean, for the most part, people probably aren't gonna care that much. And that's really freeing. But for now, this is it. Ciao. Who needs a Labubu when you got this little guy?